1.21 gigawatts. Great God!
Shall we play a game?
Would you like a jelly baby?
Engage auto systems.
Aye. Engaged.
Clear all moorings.
Cleared, sir.
1/4 impulse power.
You know how to fly, don't you?
No. Do you?
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
The Force will be with you, always.
Okay. Hi, and welcome to the Geek Hangout podcast. My name is Mark, and I am joined tonight, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Grant. How you doing tonight, Grant? Happy New Year.
Hey, thank you. Happy New Year to you too. Happy holidays to everybody. It's we're coming in late.
Wait, yeah.
It's been a good month and a half now? 2 months?
I think we recorded right before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
The last time, as I recall.
So yeah, took a nice little holiday break. But we're back now. We're back into the groove. This is episode 83 of the Geek Hangout podcast. I had it written down this time, so I remembered.
Nice.
But we have a nice show tonight. We're going to talk about Star Wars. Some of the there's new news and some older stuff, but just catch up on all things Star Wars. And our thoughts on all that. We're going to briefly check in with Marvel. There's some new stuff released over the holidays that I was able to look at. Mark hasn't caught up yet on that stuff, so I'm just going to give a brief overview on that. And then finally, we're going to talk about Doctor Who, which had 4 new specials drop on Disney Plus? Yeah.
Yes.
And we're both caught up on that, so we can talk about that and share our thoughts and that as well. But as always, we like to start everything out and say, what have you been up to, Mark? What's been going on? How are your holidays? And what's happening?
Holidays were great. We really had a good time. As always, I got a few toys for Christmas, as you do.
Which is fun, right?
Right. And one of the toys I got for Christmas, I was very excited about. And I think I talked about it briefly,
yes.
on the last show. But this is the Atari 2600 Plus. It's like a retro console, a retro Atari console. Modern console, hooks up to modern TVs.
You're right. You don't need the slider.
You don't need the slider. You don't need to put it on channel 3 or 4. Right? Yeah, but it hooks up to HDMI TVs.
Nice.
And what's the coolest thing about it is it comes with a cartridge. I mean, they're producing new cartridges for it. But the coolest thing I think about this thing is that it will play your old cartridges. Right.
That's
so if
cool.
you have a 30-year-old Atari cartridge laying around, you could play it in this thing.
That's cool.
So I think that's really cool. So I got this for Christmas and I have been playing it, and it's really wonderful. And my son and I actually went up to the retro game store that we always go up to after we went up after Christmas. And the other beautiful thing about Atari cartridges is they are cheap as hell. Like you can pick them up for like a couple of bucks. Oh my! Some of them are like $1.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Yeah, and so you could go. You can if you find a retro store like this, you can go up there and get like I came home with like 10 cartridges or something like that, and it was great. So I've been playing this, and I picked up. So I felt the need to get E.T., which is I was like, this is everybody says it's the worst video game ever made. I was like, right. I feel like we should own this in our collection so that you have the worst video game ever made. Right. And it was $7, by the way. It was one of the more expensive ones.
So it's become a collector's item now.
It's
world renowned as the worst game ever, right?
Yeah. They put all they dumped all those ones in that landfill out there in New Mexico or wherever it is.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I got E.T. I bought Raiders of the Lost Ark. Do you remember that one?
Do I remember that one? Did you have that, or did I have?
I had Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay.
I think I picked it up used at some point, but I did have it.
Oh, I can't. I'm remembering Pitfall, but I can't remember the Raiders.
I have
game.
Pitfall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was the Raiders game any good?
I think it was considered one of the better ones, but they were all like, it was like an adventure Atari game, which at the time was not fantastic, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, but like it ranks up there. Like the sort of the adventure ones were Adventure One. There was
Right.
a game called Adventure
Oh,
One
there
and Two.
was. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I don't remember that.
Then
Okay.
there was a game called Haunted House,
I remember that.
which is
Yeah.
yeah, and then Raiders of the Lost Ark. So they're sort of ranked up there
Okay. All
as
right.
sort of some of the better ones. I don't know if you remember this. Now, I had almost completely forgotten about this until I went up there. But do you remember? It was sort of at the end of the generation, like at the end before it like Atari like kind of just completely fell off the map.
Right.
They came out these games and they were called Sword Quest, and
Hmm.
there were like there were going to be 4 games, and they had them planned, and they came with a comic book,
Oh.
and the idea was there was like a Sword Quest Earthworld, Sword Quest Fire World, Sword Quest Water World, and Sword Quest um uh
Hmm.
a-
Wind or water?
wind,
Wait.
Air, something like that. There was
Like
a fourth
earth,
one.
wind, air, and fire, or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like yeah. So there was a fourth
Okay.
one, and and the idea was that you play the game, and then each game has a clue to whatever the next one was. And some
Okay.
of the clues were in the comic book that came packaged in the
Oh,
game,
okay.
right? And I think I owned one of them,
Oh.
and thought that was really cool. And then actually by the time the fourth one was supposed to come out, the Atari had like collapsed and it never came out.
Oh.
So the 3 games came out. So I bought those,
Oh,
and
that's fun.
I
Okay.
have those games. So I
Oh.
haven't, and I did, and it was funny. I put them in and I started playing them, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. Because I don't have the instruction books, I don't have the comic book, I don't have, so, but
Right.
anyway,
I'm
but
sure somebody online has that stuff to, what I mean? Someone's probably scanned that stuff in by now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can, like the manuals, you can usually find a PDF somewhere.
Yeah. Right.
I actually looked for the comic books on eBay, and they're actually kind of, well, at least the ones I looked at, I didn't go real deep into it. They were
Right.
kind of expensive, and I was like, oh,
Oh,
I'm not
that's
paying that much
interesting.
for them. Yeah.
Right. You're like, I don't need it that much.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was one of the things I got for Christmas, and I was very
That's
excited
cool.
about it. Yeah, and so I've been playing with that. It's been great. So
Yeah. Awesome.
very cool. Very cool.
Good.
What else was I up to? Oh, the only other thing I had, like I was all excited. I think I've mentioned in past episodes that I have been working through Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and
Okay.
over Christmas I was like, I'm going to finish this thing because I was real close to the end, and I get to the final dungeon of the thing, and realize that at some point there were at some point after I defeated the bosses, there was something I was supposed to pick up that I didn't pick up,
Okay.
and which makes the final dungeon like really hard, you know.
Oh.
And so finally I was like, you know what? I was going to go. I try, and you can't go back and get it because it's not there anymore.
Okay.
It's like a whole, because like these are older games, so they're they're a little wonky like that.
Okay.
And so I was just like, I'm not doing this. I've gotten this far. That's as far
Right.
as I'm going to get, and I'm just not like, I was just done with it, and I moved on. So I'm
Right.
on to a different Legend of Zelda game. So I'm
Okay.
a little annoyed by that, but
Right.
that's where I'm at.
That sucks.
Very upsetting. So anyway, that's what I've been up to. Grant, what have you been up to?
So, same here. We had a nice holiday. Everything was good and stuff. I was talking to you beforehand. We got a dog, so he's been the star of the show over here for a couple of weeks now, and he's a good boy. Yeah, we got him from a rescue, so
Nice.
he's like a year and a half, and he's like, he's like pretty much like, I don't know how much he knew before we got him, but like he was like potty trained, and I'm just our housebroken, and I'm just kind of like, well, this is wonderful, like, and he's really smart. Like he picked up on all these, like commands and tricks like right away and stuff like that. So that's been a lot of fun just having him around.
Awesome.
Yeah, just like a little, ray of happiness running around the house, which is great. And we just they said he was like part beagle, but we just did the DNA thing on him. We haven't gotten the results back yet, but we just did that.
Okay.
So we're curious to see what he comes back as, just just because everyone's like, what? Nobody really knows what he looks like, and so like we're just trying to figure it out. So it'll be fun to see what he comes.
Nice.
Yeah.
He's super cute.
Yeah,
The pictures I've seen. Yeah.
yeah, he's pretty good looking. Yeah, like he's funny. He's like it's like he has eyeliner on or something. It's very he's brown, but he's got these black markings around his eyes. It look they always the girls always tease and say his eyeliner's on point. You know, so
Nice.
but yeah, other than that, I'm trying to think what I got. I didn't prepare anything, but for Christmas I ended up getting picking up the so for the I collect the for Star Wars the retro figures they come out with, and they released a new wave of Book of Boba Fett figures and
Oh, right.
Ahsoka. And they released a wave of figures. So they usually they don't come out all at once, but for whatever reason, I think they're playing catch up with Book of Boba Fett. But those came out, so I got those and added those to the collection, and they're fun. You know, they're just right. They're just like the Kenner figures, but they're from the more modern stuff. And yeah, I got those. Oh, and then I also got I bought those myself, but they came out with a 6-pack of the retro figures, and it was like a re-release of like Admiral Akbar, the Gamorrean Guard, Wicket. Who else? Oh, the Emperor's Royal Guard, if I didn't say that. But then
Okay.
they included Yak Face, who was one of the originals, but one of the last 17. So he's very rare. So they did a re-release of him. And they also did an unproduced Mon Mothma figure. So they released her out. And so now she's available. But you had to buy
Very cool.
yeah, but you had to buy the 6-figure, all the figures
Thing to get
to get her. So
Okay.
I got her and opened her up, and then I have the other ones sitting here. And I have the originals, so I'm kind of like, well, I don't really need those. So I was debating if I wanted to sell them or what I feel like doing, but I haven't decided yet. For now,
Okay.
they're just sitting over there. So
They do a nice job on those like I have the first series of Mandalorian.
yes,
I got all of those, and they do a nice job with it. And they're and like some of the ones that came out for Obi-Wan Kenobi, I really liked.
yeah.
And I still they're still available. I keep looking at them. I'm like, I should pick those up because some of those I really liked.
yeah, they did. I mean, they did a nice job with them all, and
Yeah, they really did.
There's yes, it's a select market. It's old guys that had the originals that what I mean, like, but it's fun. It's just and this was a little bit much because so between the Book of Boba Fett, the Ahsoka wave, and then the box set, like there was a lot of product coming out, for like something that usually you get one wave a year, so it's like, this was a lot, but normally it's just you get something one a year or something like that, and it's been pretty cool. The next one coming out is they're doing episode 1, and they're going to do 6 like another 6-figure box set, and they're going to do a couple figures or a couple unmade obviously figures from episode 1 because they've never done the retro versions of those. I was excited at first, but then I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do the prequels or not because like I'm like, well, they already had all their own figures, like I'm like,
right.
Yeah, and in my mind, like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka are like they're all taking place after Return of the Jedi. So mentally, for whatever it means, those figures still could have happened, like logically. Like
right.
If Kenner had continued without the time gap or whatever, that we could have done that. But yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the prequel figures. I'll see when they come out and stuff.
Yeah, just today I meant to send it to you and I forgot. Just today I saw on Amazon, the N1, it's the N1 Starfighter, right? Like that's what his it was like on sale on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
And I'm looking at it, I was like, man, that is nice looking, but it was still like $100.
Yeah,
like on sale it was $100, and I was like, I don't know, like it's cool, but I don't know that I'd spend I want to drop $100 for it,
That's how I get too, because it's like, I mean, especially with now I have all the vintage stuff, and I'm like, I like the newer stuff, I like all that, but I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to put it, and then like, it doesn't match with the rest of my collection, because then I have like, I do have the Falcon over here still, it's not the vintage collection. What's it called?
The legacy one.
That's it. The legacy one. Right. So that I still have that one, but everything else I have is mainly vintage or, I have everything or retro, but I mean, I have a few other odds and ends, but so I
legacy.
See that's a cool. Yeah. I know.
That legacy Falcon is cool.
Yeah. But it's cool because it's like a centerpiece for the collection. Yeah. And, I don't have that much other modern stuff, but that's a really nice piece as opposed to, like the sail barge, that was neat, but it's like, a lot of people aren't going to really recognize that, or, for spending all that money on it, they're, or like the Razor Crest, they did a whole, they did that, but like literally the week the the HasLab thing was ending, they blew it up on the show.
Yeah, I know.
I remember laughing about that. Like, oh, I'm glad I didn't back that. They just blew it
Yeah,
up.
that thing was cool. That thing
Yeah.
was like, I kept I mean, there was never a real chance I was going to get it,
Right.
but I kept looking at it. I was like, that thing, if I was going to get anything, it would
Yeah.
probably be that, because that thing was really well. I mean, it's so detailed and it was really neat.
very engineered very well,
Yeah.
So I keep hoping they come out with like, I mean, I like that they do the vintage collection, which is mainly for collectors at this point, but it's like everything's very detailed. It's still a toy, but it's detailed. And I'm like, not for anything, but like you could strip that thing down and still release it, and it would be much more like the vintage or retro collection. Because I mean, when you go back and look at our toys, like there wasn't a lot of detail in them, and so it's like,
Yeah, they were
but they're
pretty
also
basic.
but they're also
Yeah.
children's toys. You kind of forget. So it's like a lot of times they're making this stuff for grown-ups, but I'm like, well, I think a kid would like to have, Millennium Falcon,
Right,
rest his on his arm and run around the yard with it. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe they probably do their research. It's probably just old guys buying this stuff now.
Yeah. Probably.
I know,
It is cool though. Like I'll tell you, I
is.
was looking at that N1 Starfighter. I'm like, that's pretty neat. But I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not spending $100 for it.
No, I know. So,
So,
but that's pretty much it over here. Nothing else to report, so to speak. So I guess we might as well get into it.
yeah. And our first topic this evening is Star Wars, because there was a bunch of Star Wars news. This sort of came out of nowhere. It was like all of a sudden there was all this Star Wars news, like
Yeah,
right at the beginning of the year.
I know. I was the first thing that dropped was or the most recent thing I should say that dropped was the Bad Batch trailer. And this really caught me. I mean, I knew, back in my mind, I knew this was coming, but I was just all of a sudden it was like, boop, there's a trailer. It just kind of came out of nowhere. So I was excited to see this, and I don't want to say I forgot about it or forgot about the storyline, but the trailer made me excited.
Okay, here we go.
All right. So the first thing for Star Wars that dropped most recently, as a matter of fact, was the new Bad Batch trailer. And this was kind of a surprise. I knew it was coming, but I was surprised. Just kind of surprised me when it dropped. But the trailer looks good. Like I kind of forgot about, the sort of what had happened in the show, and so the trailer, got me excited for it again. I'm excited for this to happen. It's kind of right now the last show that's taking place in this time period, I guess, right? Post Clone War, or post.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would. Yeah, it's funny that because this just dropped today, right? Or was it yesterday? I don't know.
I can't. Yeah,
it may have been yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.
Yesterday. Yeah, and it's like you said. Like I mean, I knew it was coming. I wasn't thinking about dates or anything like that. But like, yeah, now I'm like, I sort of had even forgotten that. Oh crap! What's her name?
Omega.
Right. Omega had been kidnapped. Like I forgot all of that had happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, so I'm gonna have to maybe try to go back and rewatch some of this stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking, if I remember right, the last 2 episodes of season 2 were really good. You know what I mean? Like I know some of the season were just adventures of the week and all that, and that's fine. But I think the last 2 were really good, and that really sort of pushed the storyline forward.
Yeah, like I remember, like we were I really liked the first season of Bad Batch, and I remember being like second season being like I think it was good, but it wasn't nearly as compelling as season 1 was.
Yes,
and until the end, like the last few episodes were very good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and Ventress pops up again here. Which I was surprised at, but like, yeah, it looks really good, and I'm excited about it because I think there are stakes here. I mean, because who was it? Echo died, right, in season 2, or at least he fell.
Tech, right?
Tech.
Wasn't
okay?
Tech.
It was Tech. It was Tech.
Yeah.
So Tech fell from the suspended car.
Right. Yeah, he's apparently dead. Right. And then
right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, they captured Omega. They captured Crosshairs, who was a villain who had become a bad guy, but then he's captured now. And it's like they have all these like clones or, pseudo clones or whatever they are at Mount Tannis now. which is the Emperor's like, where they're doing all this clone research. Which I think
That's
they're
right.
gonna tie. Yeah, they're gonna tie into the sequels and Baby Yoda and Snoke and all. I think that's where that's all heading.
Yeah. And Crosshair had killed his superior officer, right? Like
Yes, right.
that's why
Yes,
he's sort of in trouble now, or at least, that's how he ends up at Mount Tannis, because he's like a prisoner, really.
yes, right. Yeah, yeah, right. Because that was a really good episode too. I don't think that was part of the last two, but I remember that was like towards the end of the season, and it was like he
Yeah.
was on that like snow planet, and like it was like a really dark episode, and you're like, like for a children's show. It's not. I mean,
Right.
it runs the gambit. You know what I mean? It's like some episodes are very much just an adventure, which is fun, but then like that shows up, and you're like, man, this is dark. He's like killing a superior officer, and um, but yeah, it looks good. I'm excited for the stakes too, because I'm excited to see what happens to these clones. I mean, they've done if anything else in the show, they've done a nice job of sort of like showing, like what happened to the clones, and like, oh, the Empire, once they were no longer useful to them, it was time to get rid of them, and they blew up like Camino and all that. That was season one, I guess, right, where they
Yeah.
destroyed the cloning facilities, and so it's neat to see how they're going to handle all this lore wise, and the characters are neat too, to see where they end up, and because as of now we haven't seen any of the Bad Batch characters in the future. We've seen some of the other clones in Rebels and yeah, right. It was Rex and a couple of other guys.
We see those guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be, because really what's sort of unfolding is that, the clones become a problem for the Empire, right? Like that's what helps them take over. That's what helps them become the Empire. But then once they are the Empire, the clones are sort of a problem that they need to, get rid of.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what you're seeing in the Bad Batch, which I think is really interesting.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that. It's an adventure show disguise, like you're getting like they're fleshing out the lore, but it's kind of disguised as an adventure show or whatever.
Yeah.
I did see, so Ventress is back, but not really, because apparently there's a book called The Dark Disciple, which I have not read, but it was based on some of the unmade Clone Wars episodes from the.
Oh, okay.
And spoiler alert, but in that book, Ventress dies.
Oh, really?
And so when they showed her in this trailer, there was a huge uproar online, like, "Oh no, you're breaking canon because, she's dead and now she's in the show." And I saw Lucasfilm actually issued something saying like, "No, trust us, we love the book. It'll all make sense." So I don't think they're bringing her back. I don't think they're ignoring it. I think it might be a flashback or something. There might be more to it. But I just thought that was funny that everybody like immediately went to like oh no, you're breaking it. You're breaking canon. It's like, guys, it's a trailer. Give it a day. But
right.
Then, but to their credit, Lucasfilm was on top of it. And they're like, boom. And they're like, nope, everything's fine.
Yeah. Well, they like, I get Filoni's very, very good about that kind of stuff. Like he doesn't. There's usually an explanation for anything that happens in his shows, even if it's thin. There's usually some kind of explanation.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he was all over that.
Right. I'll be curious. Is it going to be like, oh, well, you thought she was dead, but she wasn't, or is it going to be, oh, here's a flashback to some other time, or some other story?
Yeah. So. Well, we see Cad Bane in there too in this trailer.
Yeah.
So
he's been floating around for a while, with all these. It was actually weird that he showed up in Book of Boba Fett to be killed, because like most of his stories were all, pre the original trilogy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How does it end with Ventress? I don't even remember. I remember her like kind of getting tossed aside as like the.
To be honest,
she was supposed to be the Padawan of
Dooku.
Dooku, right? And then she kind of gets tossed aside, but like she's all through. Like I mean, she eventually goes away in Clone Wars. Like she stops showing up.
Yeah.
But she was around for a while.
She was around for a long time. So like something happened. So like her and Dooku have a falling out, and I think I remember her being like a bounty hunter for a little while, like
Yeah, like she ends
right?
up as a bounty hunter or something, and that's what she
And
kind of looks
then
like here.
right, I can't remember if the hair was when she was a bounty hunter or if I remember that from the cover of the novel because I definitely remember the hair from the cover. So
Okay.
I'm not, not sure if we saw her with the hair or not in the Clone Wars cartoon or the show, but um, yeah, all I know is in those the book based off of those old episodes, her and the Jedi, he was Quintos Voss, I want to say his name is. He's got like long, curly, dark hair, and he has like a yellow or maybe it's like a light green, but a stripe kind of goes across his eyes. You ever seen him? He's a human, but he's and so he pops up. He was like in one of the comics, and Lucas was like, "Oh, that guy looks cool," and they put him in the background scene of the Phantom Menace, just
Oh, okay.
for fun. And then I think he did show up in the. I think he showed up in the Clone Wars somewhere. Like I don't know if he had his own storyline, if he was a background character, or if he was like like accompanied Obi-Wan on a mission or something like that. So he was there a little bit.
Okay.
But apparently the two of them, Quintos Voss, if I'm saying his name right, and Ventress sort of get together. Well, and I think there might be like a little like love story there, but eventually she in the book dies. I don't remember what happens to him. I don't remember. Yeah, I didn't read it, but I don't remember what happens to him.
Okay.
So maybe hopefully if they're covering it, they'll flesh maybe some of that out a little bit, at least the backstory or something.
Yeah. I mean, it looks. I mean, from the trailer, it looks really good.
Yeah,
I mean, I have liked this series more than I expected to.
yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. They released, which is strange for Lucasfilm, but they released all the names, the titles of the episodes before, like all the titles of the episodes have been released.
Oh, okay.
So
I saw the image, but it didn't register to me that
yeah,
the title that the show titles were on there. So that's interesting. Okay.
yeah. So February 21st is when it premieres. That episode is called Confined, and then it looks like it's a double or a triple episode.
Oh, they're gonna do it. Okay.
So yes, so episode 301 is Confined. Episode 302 is Paths Unknown. Episode 303 is Shadows of Tantus.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right.
That's good.
So then February 28th, we get an episode 304 is A Different Approach.
Okay.
March 6th is The Return. March 13th is Infiltration, and it looks like that's a double episode too. Infiltration and Extraction.
Okay.
Episode or March 20th, we get episode 308. That's Bad Territory. March 27th is episode 309 is The Harbinger. April 3rd, it looks like another double episode, Identity Crisis and Point of No Return.
Okay.
April 10th is Juggernaut. April 17th is Into the Breach. April 24th is Flash Strike. And May 1st, which is the finale, The Cavalry Has Arrived.
Oh, okay.
So those are the episodes.
That's
interesting.
Cool. Is the finale a two-parter or just one, it says?
It's only a one-parter, but these aren't, there's no times here.
So it could be,
it could be like a longer episode, I would guess.
Okay.
There's a lot of double episodes.
Yeah, right. So,
3 of them.
That's cool though, because I mean, I remember last season if they did a double episode, it usually was like an episode that was like very important, and then it was like another episode. So like I don't want to say a filler, but you know what I mean? Like so it's like I always felt like there's like they'd give you a dramatic episode, and then it's like, well, okay, here's another one, just the throwaway episode or whatever.
Yeah, that one was really good. That one was really expensive. This one's cheap.
Right, it might be right. That's exactly it.
So yeah, I mean it's we're going to be getting new Star Wars starting February 21st.
So that goes all the way through May, right? Is that what you just said, right?
Yeah.
May 21st. Wow, that's good. It's going to run for a long time then. I mean, that's there's 15 episodes, I guess, right?
If you can, 1, 2, 3. Well, it goes from 301 to 315. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So 14, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Right. 15.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah. All right. So cool then. All right. All right. So then that's your Star Wars fix for the spring then, you know?
Yeah, right. And then
Yeah. Well,
what's after that? What do we get after
so
that? Do we get
let's see.
anything? Because
Nothing
I
else.
really think this year, 2024, I think if it wasn't at least in process,
Right.
by the time the strike happened in the summer, I think
Yeah.
it's going to get pushed out, right?
Yeah. I think this is, I mean, whether it's because of the strike and all that. And I mean, also, we've kind of kidded around about, and other people have said about the fatigue of Star Wars to an extent, but also superheroes and all that stuff. I think it's a combination of both. I think they're like light, I think they're holding off on a few things, and then the strike probably helped them in terms of that,
Yeah.
you know. But here, I have a list of upcoming Star Wars stuff. So we have Skeleton Crew, which has not been announced yet, but they believe that's coming out this year.
Okay. Yeah. Like I think
Right.
right. I think I've heard like fall or
Yeah.
late summer or fall.
And then the Acolyte is still supposed to come out this year.
Oh,
Now,
really?
yeah, that's what this says anyway. I mean, this I think is relatively up to date, but I'm not sure. You know what I mean? So until we get an announcement, but anyway, it says it's supposed to come this year. This had Bad Batch season 3 is on here. Obviously, we just talked about that. Star Wars Tales of the Jedi season 2.
Yeah.
So, you know, that
That's
was
the
interesting.
kids. That's the kid show, right?
No, 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 no. That was the one where it was like by the same it's the same cartoon
Oh,
style as this, and it was like, remember they did the episodes about Ahsoka and about Dooku. Remember they did stuff about like Dooku when he was younger.
oh, you know what? Did I ever see that? I don't know if I ever
Oh,
watched that.
okay. The I feel like you watched it, but I maybe not. I don't know. The Ahsoka stuff was interesting and good, but then the Dooku stuff was actually, it was like when he was younger and like Qui-Gon was his apprentice. There's like a couple of stories with them, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, I didn't realize I wanted to know more about Count Dooku when he was younger and stuff. It was pretty cool.
I think you know what? I wanted to watch it. I don't know that I ever saw it. I
Oh,
think I
you're
forgot
okay.
about it. I
Yeah.
think I wanted to watch it and I just never got around to it.
Okay. Yeah, have to go check it out. It's good. I mean, I remember
Okay.
liking it. Um, and then so Andor season 2 is still coming.
I think I think they said that got pushed.
Yeah, this says 2025 now.
Yeah.
So, and then everything else looks like it's in development, like Ahsoka season 2. And then so here's this list. There's apparently Taika Waititi's movie is still in development. James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie is still in development. Dave Filoni's Mando, they're calling it the Heir to the Republic or Heir to the Empire. I'm sorry, that's still in
Yeah.
development. The Ray movie is coming. That's in development. I think they start shooting that in April. Favreau's, which we're talking about right now, we have
Yeah.
to still up. So the Mandalorian Grogu is still in development, and then the Mandalorian season 4 is still happening, and that's also in development. And
Okay.
then everything else on this list is just like stuff that like Rogue Squadron movie where it's like status unknown, or all those other
Yeah.
movies that we were promised that just quietly went away. So the only thing else on this list that jumped out at me was, apparently, did we know that? Remember they announced a Lando TV series? Did we? Do you remember? Did we talk about that getting turned into a movie?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that.
I don't know if we ever talked about it, but I remember it happening.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's on
Um,
here as a movie, and it just says
but
status unknown for right now.
yeah, but I think even that is they changed it into a movie, but I think even that is very tentative.
Yeah.
Like,
The last thing I've read about that, other than realizing it was a movie, was that Donald Glover is up for it, but he's just so busy that it's like basically they're waiting on him. It's like when you get
yeah,
time, and I think somebody that was attached
they
to
got it.
write it,
Yeah,
but I think
and
somebody like I think Donald Glover's like he's got a writing partner. I think that guy came up
yes.
or something. Yeah, okay.
I don't remember who it was or
Yeah,
anything, but I remember that being a thing that the
yes.
two of them were writing it.
Yeah, which I was like, fine, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, all right, cool. That's
Yeah.
why not? I mean, I really liked him as Lando, and I like Lando as a character, so I'm like, good, let's go for it. Let's have a good time with this stuff.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and that's wide open. You can do anything you want
Yeah,
with it.
right. All you got to do is get him to Cloud City. That's all you need to
Right,
do. Yeah.
right. He just needs to be there for Empire Strikes Back.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's the list of stuff coming up. I mean, we've heard stuff about Skeleton Crew and Acolyte and all that stuff, but the biggest news is what we have on the screen now is the Mandalorian and Grogu was the announcement that they're getting their own movie now.
Yeah.
And as of last time around, I thought they were going to be part of the Heir to the Empire Filoni's movie, and here I guess they're getting their own movie in addition to that. I'm not quite sure how it's going to all fit together.
Were you saying, like, because this announcement sort of, like, I was a little surprised by it. Like, it sort of came out of nowhere. And it was like, I mean, there's obviously there was going to be a season 3, or like, I mean, we knew they were going to do something else with the Mandalorian and Grogu,
right?
But it's just sort of like this movie announcement kind of came out of left field, like, so I was a little surprised about it, and it seems like this is the one that's being fast tracked. Like, this seems like this is the one that's coming out first.
Yeah. It seems that way. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it would make sense because, like, everything's already in place. You know what I mean? Like,
right?
Like, if Favreau came up with a story that warranted a movie, then it's like, all right, well, we got the sets are right here, the volumes here, baby,
right.
Here, let's go. So maybe that's what they're going to do. It makes sense, I think. I mean, it's a proven commodity in terms of, like, everybody likes Mandalorian. It's been very good for Disney Plus, but it makes sense. It's like, well, what a better way to get people back in the theaters than it's kind of a safe movie, really. I mean, you can do a big extravagant, throw a lot of money at it and have a big adventure and stuff, but I mean, unless they're gonna, sort of use it to, I don't want to say reset the Mandalorian, but reset the status quo a little bit more, maybe. I don't know what I don't know what they could do. Like, it's like, I feel like the show's done a really good job of entertaining me and going to unexpected places. So, unless they just give us a true Mandalorian and Grogu adventure, like,
Yeah, I mean, it really has been, of the stuff that they've done since the sequels. This is definitely the thing that's hit the most, I think. I would say. So it's sort of like, well, let's bank on that, because I mean, there's all kinds of rumors floating around about what's going on at Lucasfilm, what's going on. I mean, Disney's having their own struggles, but, like, I had heard at one point, whether it's true or not, who as anybody's guess, I think I'd either heard or I'd read at some point that Iger had told Kathleen Kennedy at some point that it was like, look, 2025, you need to get a Star Wars movie in the theaters, right? Like, that has to happen,
Right.
And so that might be part, like, like, maybe that's what's behind this. They were sort of like, well, because it is sort of like, it's shocking that we're in 2024 now. When was the Rise of Skywalker? I mean, it was
2019.
2019. So it's been, like, 5 years since there's been a Star Wars movie in the theater. That was not their plan when they spent $5 billion or however much it was to get Lucasfilm.
Right. They expected to be. I mean, they learned their lesson quickly, but they expected to be churning out a lot of movies.
Right. So it's kind of shocking that, I mean, now, of course, they got, Chapek did the big push for streaming. He wanted everything streaming, so then they did that. We've gotten a lot of Star Wars. We just haven't gotten a film,
right?
Like, and it's kind of surprising that we haven't had a film since 2019.
I know,
so,
and I think also, like, they kind of discovered that, like, they can throw as much as they want at streaming, but, like, they're not seeing the increase in the subscriber base. So I think they're starting to realize, like, okay, like, like we just said about the Lando thing got turned into a movie. Was that because they thought was that some other reason, or did they say, you know what, let's put it in the theaters first? Let's, and sort of have things kind of you don't want to say trickle down, but it's like, all right, do a big movie and try to make all our money there. Then okay, then after that, then you put it on streaming, and like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like we're gonna talk. We're talking about the Marvels is coming to streaming this month, and it's like the same thing. On one hand, we were saying like, wow, that was very fast, and we saw it in the theaters. But on the flip side, if you're not going to go to the theater and you're a Disney Plus subscriber, you're like, oh, hot dog, the Marvels is here finally. So it's
Right,
like, I
right,
guess
right.
there is I guess there's a trade off there for having it, that convenient.
But but their issue is anybody like if you're a subscriber to Disney Plus, you're sort of like, all right, but is anybody subscribing to Disney Plus to see the Marvels? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes.
Is there anybody out there that's like, man, this is what I've been waiting for, and they sign up? I don't think that's a thing.
Yeah, you're right. And same with Mandalorian. It's like, well, if you're gonna, if you want to see the Mandalorian movie, well, you've already subscribed to watch those episodes.
Yeah.
So I don't. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's it's interesting. I don't know what the answer is to that, but it's like, with Disney's kind of, I mean, they're so well known for all their IP, their intellectual properties, but like, if you're not into it, you're not subscribing. Whereas like Netflix will throw a dozen different shows out of all different types.
Yeah.
So you might be more, you know what I mean? So it's like, they have Disney has all the great properties, but at the same time, it's also like, well, if you're not interested in those properties, you're not subscribing,
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I think I have firmly become the grumpy old man, and I'm firmly anti-streaming now. Like I'm just sort of fed up with the whole thing. And I mean, it is convenient, but beyond that, like, we're just getting worse content. I mean, it's just the reality, right? Like, I mean, the promise of streaming was that they were like, oh, there's all these properties, and they're going to focus on like Star Trek, and we're going to get all this Star Trek stuff, and we're going to get Star Wars stuff, and we're going to get Marvel, and we're going to get all this content. And it's like, well, that's great, but a lot of it's not been great,
right?
Like, and it's sort of like, well, frankly, I liked it better the old way. And I don't want to be the curmudgeonly old man, but that's kind of where I'm at now,
But I think they may have learned their lesson, because I feel like, especially with Marvel, like, they were just cranking out just shows, just trying to, it was like content.
Yeah.
And then like eventually they realized, like, one, this isn't helping anybody in terms of subscribers, but two, then it's like it suffers. Like, I mean, we saw it with Book of Boba Fett, like, in hindsight, and I'm kind of reading between the lines here, but like, that was like a half-baked idea. Like, they had a good, they had an idea. All right, here's how Boba Fett survives the Sarlacc pit, and here's maybe what he's, here's like the first half, the Tusken Raiders and all that stuff. But like the second half of the story, with like what he does with himself afterwards, wasn't fully baked. You know what I mean? They didn't have a firm grasp on that. And that's when I think it was like, we want a Boba Fett TV show, and then okay, and then they scrambled to make that happen. And if they'd given him another year, it would have been probably great. Or if they had just made that part of Mando, if they'd made that, if they had, made that Mando season 3 and just had a heavy focus on Boba Fett, it probably would have been great too, because it would have, what I mean, there wouldn't have been, then there wouldn't have been a huge disconnect halfway through the show either, where it's like, here's the Mandalorian. But I think, I hope they learned their lesson. I mean, I feel like with Marvel, like, I feel like Loki season 2 was really good. Like, they kind of learned.
I mean, there have been good.
Yeah.
There's been, and I just shouldn't say all of it has been, because it's not like there's been really good stuff. Andor, I thought, was really good.
Oh, that was
I liked Obi-Wan. I know a lot of people didn't. I like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
I liked Obi-Wan, but that's another example of something that I think was originally supposed to be a movie that they said, no, give us a streaming show, and then they had to pad it out. And if they had taken their time, it probably would have been it would have been a great show. Whereas now it was a good show. I liked elements of that I really liked, and other stuff I'm like, I would have maybe done that differently.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's just yeah. So I think like I'm coming down on that's where I'm at now. I'm sort of
Yeah.
like not that I'm anti-streaming, but I'm
No,
just sort of
right.
like I don't know. It hasn't been what we were promised, and it's not just. And I'm not just complaining about Disney Plus. I feel like the same way about Paramount Plus
Right.
is the same. Like the Star Trek stuff. Like some of it's been good, some of it's been bad. Like on the whole, it's like I don't really love Discovery at all. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and I liked Picard. Like
But Picard-
like
yeah.
one a season and a half of Picard.
Right. Picard was a little right. It was a little rocky, and then it was, but then it was, you finally paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know Strange New Worlds is the same thing. It's like some episodes are good, other ones are like, like I
Yeah.
mean, I do like that, but it's been hit or it's been a little. I feel like the first season was really good. Second season was a little bit more hit or miss, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just right. They just get where it's like what I would really like is, and I using Andor as an example, like Andor, that couldn't have been anything other than a show. You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
that was
Agreed. Right.
like, and so that made sense to put on your streaming platform. Whereas, well, I can't even say that because Mandalorian, I mean, that could be movies, but like it kind of is an adventure of the week. Like that was the whole idea of it. So, I don't know what the answer is, but I like the
Yeah.
idea of using streaming for something that maybe you couldn't put in the movie theaters.
I think like
You know
I
what I
think you
mean?
hit it. You sort of hit the nail on the head. Like I think a lot of this stuff, it's like we've got this one idea that we think is a really good idea, but then they were like, well, we need you to pad that out over
Right.
6 episodes, and then it just like that. Like
Yeah.
Andor, whether you loved it or hate it, like Andor was well planned, right? Like there
Right.
were 3 episode arcs. You
Right.
know, each episode sort of completed its story, and then there was an overarching story. And I
Yeah.
thought, like, so I know a lot of people didn't like that show, but that show was well crafted.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
well written. Um, and that's I really like that. I feel like Mandalorian is sort of the same thing. Like I mean, it's not that involved, but like, yeah, there's like an episode of the week kind of thing, and then there's an overarching storyline.
Yeah.
Like it's
Right.
well crafted,
Right.
But Book of Boba Fett was not.
No.
Like it just was. And I agree with you with Obi-Wan. Like Obi-Wan, it was like there were some core ideas there that were pretty good, but the overall story was not well crafted.
Yeah, I keep somebody apparently it's a fan edit, but somebody took a Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan and took their however many episodes and then edited it and then down into like a 2 hour movie, and like I guess got rid of a lot of the extraneous stuff. And
Yeah.
I keep meaning to go and try to find. I mean, I forget the guy's name. I came across it one time. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch it, and then I forgot and closed the website. And then but I would just be curious to see how that would play out. If you'd enjoy it more in that format.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll
So,
have to see going forward. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they may have learned their lesson, but at the same time, who knows? I mean,
but they're also putting like, and I see the value in this certainly, but now they're like the idea is they're also trying to spend less, which I'm not sure bodes well for,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Maybe we get more character stuff, which
that could
is
right.
good, right? Which
Yeah,
could be good.
yeah,
But less special effects, less, you know, uh, space chases and all that kind of stuff, but more
yeah.
character stuff. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
But yeah, for if it's going to be a TV show, you kind of have the luxury of that. You know, what I mean, if it's a
Yeah,
movie, you need your effects, you need all the you know what I mean,
right,
because
right.
that's what a movie is supposed to be. Whereas, right, if it's a weekly TV series, maybe you don't have to do as much, or
Yeah,
like you save it for like you save it for the last episode or the last couple episodes or something like that. I hope
yeah.
it doesn't get that way because Mandalorian, whether good or bad or whatever you think of it, it never feels cheap to me. Like
Agree. Right.
I
I
mean, the
agree.
effects
Yeah.
always look really good. I think they really know how to use the volume. Like it's very rare for in that show to be like, oh, that doesn't look right. You know what I mean? Like they do a really good
Yeah.
job with all that. So I'd hate for it to be like, this is a weird example, but I remember years ago watching Agents of Shield on ABC,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, it's all connected back then, and this and that. But you're like, this is chintzy. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, somebody's not springing for the special effects, because like it was everything was very subdued and very, and
Yeah.
so I business reasons I understand, but from a fan, you're standing there and you're just kind of like, guys, you got to spend some more money on this, because like,
Yeah. If you want this to be a thing, yeah.
the Avengers exist, and it doesn't look like that happens in this universe at all, type of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Hopefully they figure it out, and we'll just have to see what
But
happens. Really.
hey, I will be there to see Mandalorian and Grogu. Like,
Oh,
I will buy a
definitely.
ticket,
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
I will be there to see Mandalorian and
I-
Grogu. And
I
I
will
think
be-
I think most of my family will go too.
Yes, because it's right. The nice thing about that is, like, at the end of the day, what do you need to know? It's basically a dad and his kid, and he's taking care of him. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Right.
it's a very basic. Yeah, you have these intricate adventures, but at the end of the day, like, not much changes. Oh, he learns how to use the Force a little bit, but like, I think that'll be. It might be a smart move on Lucasfilm's part.
Right. Right.
Yeah, come out. It's almost like a slam dunk. Like, all right, slam dunk. We're gonna tell this big fun, big adventure story, and it's safe, and then maybe give them a good head start, type of thing.
And do we get Baby Yoda, or do we get like tween Yoda?
Yeah, right. I assume he's gonna stay Baby Yoda for a long time.
Yeah.
just from the
Marketing.
Yes, from a sheer marketing standpoint, I'd be like, no, that kid's not growing up.
Yeah. We could put all kinds of merch.
Right. Nobody wants tween Yoda.
Yeah. Nobody wants angsty Yoda.
Right.
All right.
So we were talking about Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this to you because you're the one that you listened to the interview, I guess, right?
Yeah, so I just put this out there because, well, I mean, there was a couple of, so we talked about the Ray movie coming up, and I guess there's been some, I mean, the director that they've hired to write the Ray movie, Shinoy Obey, I have her name here somewhere.
Charmin
Obey Shinoy or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's how you say it. Apparently there's been some controversy there. About she said some stuff, like she said some stuff that was I really think has been taken out of context, a lot of it, and it's also, a lot of it is also very old things that they're saying, like that somebody dredged up, like things that were said long before she was ever part of the Star Wars thought process,
right?
That she statements that she made about other projects that are now being like dredged up again and made to sound like she said this about the Ray movie, which is not true, and all that. So I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't know what to say about the Ray movie.
Yeah. I would say I'm interested in the Ray movie because it's moving Star Wars forward, and I'm all for that.
Yes.
So, and I'm curious to see where they go with it. I mean, is she, they're going to show her rebuilding the Jedi Order. They're going to start getting involved in that. That's all. I'm all for that. That sounds good. I hope they use it to introduce some new stuff now. Like, please don't bring back the Empire. Please don't bring back the First Order. Like, give us something new, something interesting. I'm having a hard time with this being called the Ray movie, not because I don't like Ray, because I actually like Ray, but to me, her and Finn at the very least have to be together. Like, it was such a not even a cliffhanger. Like, he kept saying, like, oh, basically he was trying to tell her in Rise of Skywalker that he thought he had the Force.
Yeah.
So, like, she should be training him, or by the time this movie rolls around, he should be a Jedi, and so we should see him. And I feel like that would be a disservice to not have him. Like, it's weird that they're going to break up the band, so to speak. Not as much Poe, because he can go do whatever type of thing. I mean, like, I feel like Ray and Finn, especially with the Force and all that stuff, I feel like that he's got to be part of this movie somehow.
Yeah, but I like, does he want to come back? Like, because statements he's made, I feel like he feels like he was burned in
Yeah.
this whole thing. And
I
like, I don't know that he has any desire to really come back to it. And I feel for the guy because I felt like he got burned too, you know?
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
I don't know. You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
I'm
if they
like, oh,
back up enough money, if they back a
exactly.
truck of money up, will he come back? He
Yeah.
probably would.
He does. I mean, he doesn't seem to have a great career that, but he also doesn't seem to be hurting either. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So like, I don't know. Whereas like Daisy Ridley, I've seen interviews with her where she was basically saying like, I'm having a hard time getting a job, like,
Yeah.
because I don't know if she got typecast. I mean, I think she's a great actress. I mean, I mean, I don't have anything against her that way, but I don't know if she just got typecast. I don't know what her deal is, type of thing. Whereas I've actually seen John Boyega in other stuff. Whereas,
Yeah.
I know Ray's been in a few things. Daisy Ridley's been in a few things, but yeah, I don't know. And Oscar Isaac, he's been in everything. So like
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
if he, but I did see. I think he said something like, "Sure," he's probably like, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah. I
Like
think
that.
he would do. Yeah. He'd be sure. Why not?
He's
I think
probably
he'll
saying,
do anything.
right? It's like, sure, like you said, back up the money truck. I'm
Yeah.
coming out.
My issue with and I need to get over it, but my issue with the Ray movie is I really feel like they're going to give her a lot of what I felt Luke should have accomplished. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like
Right.
it's a lot of, and there's a little like, and I shouldn't be this way, because it's like you said, like it's moving forward, like we should all be on board with that. I agree with you.
But yeah,
But
no, I know.
but there's a piece of me that's sort of like, no, man, you like this was Luke's shtick, and like she should have picked up from what he did and moved forward, right? Like I would have been cool
Right.
with that, but it
Yeah.
bothers me that no, he just completely failed, and she's picking up the pieces. That
I
bothers me.
mean, the good thing about how ambiguous, I guess, the prequels or the sequel trilogy was is that like there's like a 30-year period where it's like you could find out like, all right, like we saw Luke and he trained Grogu for a little bit, then Grogu left to go back with Amando, and then it's like, well, what else did Luke do here
Right.
between, basically between Grogu and the Kylo Ren, like when Ben Solo becomes Kylo Ren, maybe a lot of other cool stuff did happen in there, and I feel like, and I've said it a million times, but I feel like we need to see that. Like we need to know
Yeah.
a lot more about that, because if you know more about that, then when you do Ray's movie, then it can be like, it won't be like, oh, they're giving her Luke's storyline. It'll be like, oh, Ray is building off of what Luke started. Like
Yeah. See, that I would be cool with. I think
you know what I
I'd
mean?
like that would make me feel better about the whole
Yeah.
situation. Like if it's I don't know. It just doesn't. I don't know. Something doesn't sit well with me with the
Well,
whole thing,
it's
and it
yeah.
shouldn't. It shouldn't, but it does.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, yeah, I get it because I mean, like, not for anything. It's like, Luke's your, childhood hero,
yeah,
and we've had years to think about. Oh, Luke went on and he restarted the Jedi, and what I mean, like, you were thinking that path, and then the sequels come out, and it's like, oh, this is not how I expected this to happen.
yeah,
Like you're like, I did not expect Luke to end up being a failure. I mean, he eventually wasn't. I mean, he saves the day and all that, but it's like, really what I mean, even without giving us those specific stories, the beginning of the Ray movie, they could have Mark Hamill come back as Force Ghost, Luke, and it could be, even if it's one sequence, but it could be very much just like, oh, remember your teachings, or you have the
yeah.
sacred
Right,
Jedi,
right, right, right,
you
right.
have the sacred texts, and or what I mean, almost like an official like handoff, like
Yeah,
and just to, okay, it might be fan service, but it'd probably go a long way to appeasing maybe the more vocal parts of the
yeah,
audience. That, like, oh, Luke's cool with this, okay, or or oh, Luke did have an academy, and oh, all those students, maybe
yeah.
all of them
Because
didn't
that's
get killed, or
because I'd have been like I think it all would have sat better with me if it had been like, and I think I said this before, like if he had, all right, he went off to the island cut himself off to get like a deeper understanding of the Force and how it all works, and and that I would have been cool with, you
Right.
know. But the fact that he went there and he just cut himself off and he didn't do any like that's the piece of it that never sat well with me. But like that said, in The Last Jedi, there were moments in that film with Luke where he was like he did have sort of like a better understanding even than Yoda or Obi-Wan about how it all connects, or
Yeah.
how it all
Yeah.
works. And like that's the stuff that I was like, that's what I want, right? Give
Right.
me that, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I
don't
think
give me that he's just this, and he just went off and brooded for however many years.
right. Yeah. Like it's like I get the catalyst. Okay. And he saw what the future Kylo Ren could bring, thought about taking him out, thought about killing him, stopped, but by that point it was too late because Kylo woke up and
Yeah,
and I get that he's like, I've made a mess of everything. I'm just gonna go away for a little while. So I get that, but I know what you're saying, where it's like it would have been it may not have made it for a very interesting movie, but it would have been very interesting to see him, like you said, gaining a deeper understanding of the Force and like, like kind of, I mean, he kind of did hint about it where he's like, it's time for the Jedi to die,
right.
right? Or it's time for, did he say die or end? I can't remember. It's time for the
It's
Jedi
time
to,
for the Jedi to end. That's what he
yeah,
says, or something,
and,
something like that. And
he does talk about like the cyclical nature of, every like how it's just ongoing and
yeah,
now I gotta probably go watch that again because like like I'd love to.
those were the parts of that movie I found most compelling, right?
Yes,
When
yeah,
he's sort of contemplative about the whole Force and like how it all works and
yeah,
and everything that's happened in the past. Like that's the part of it I was like, that's great stuff.
right,
That's what I wanted to see. We just didn't. I don't think we got enough of that.
right, yeah. That's the yeah, one of the unfortunate things about The Last Jedi is like the Luke and Rey storyline was so potentially so strong. Like
Yeah.
that was the meat of that movie. That's where all the good
Oh,
stuff
definitely.
was. You know, and the other storylines were lacking. It's like,
Right.
you know, it was, I understand it was all about failure across the board, and I get everything they were trying to do, but at the end of the day, I'm like, well, I'd much rather see Luke and Ray. I'd much rather
Yeah.
see that storyline, how that plays out,
Like
and
that's the whole movie. My sense of that movie is that, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know Ryan Johnson, but this is what I got from that movie was that his interest was with Ray, Kylo, and Luke,
yes, right,
right? And the other stuff, it was like, well, I got to give them something to do, and he did, but
right.
that's not really what he wanted to be writing about. That was my impression. Every time I watch that movie, that's the sense I get from that movie.
Yes. Yes. I would agree with that because the other stuff, right? It was interesting, maybe. You know what I mean? Like there,
Yeah,
but the stuff with Ray and Luke was actually compelling. Like you're just like you said, you're like
right.
you're like, wait, how's this work? I'm interested in this type of thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I know. So, but yes, I think they could. I think they can make the Ray movie work. I think they can make it feel like it's not stealing Luke's storyline. Like that's the biggest hurdle, I would say.
that's right. That's
You know,
my one worry, and it's like I shouldn't be
right.
worried about it. Like I shouldn't
No,
be
but it is.
concerning myself with it, but it will bother me on some
Yes.
level that
Well, yeah.
if it's not dealt with well, you know.
Yes. I mean, if she just rolls up and is like, "Oh, I'm Ray. I'm the last of the Jedi, and I'm building a new. I'm, I'm. It's a new Jedi Order. I'm rebuilding the temple, and I'm going to be like,
Yeah,
well, you're like, okay, like I guess that's what you're supposed to be doing, but a lot of us are going to be like, well, I thought Luke was supposed to do this, and then a lot of us that did read the old expanded universe novels are going to be like, no, Luke did do this, like.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's just a lot of baggage there. There's a way around it. They just have to be careful and navigate it.
I mean, they could, right, and if they and I don't know that they will, but if they did bring Mark Hamill in, as like Force Ghost's,
They
advisor guy. You could do that, like that
Right.
would go
They totally,
towards fixing it.
they totally got to do that. They got to,
Yeah.
again, I don't know if they will, but yes, they totally have to bring him in, whether it's early in the movie or towards the end, like they brought Yoda back in The Last Jedi. Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, I feel like you would need that in some capacity it's almost like the handoff, it's sort of like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know. Or is that, or could that backfire and that would piss even more people off,
Right. Exactly. That's also true. Well, something's gonna piss everybody off.
Right.
Just
Well,
like
it's like you were saying about the directors. What was her name again? They're like dredging up all these they're dredging up her old comments. And at this point, it's just like rage clickbait. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, would you believe what the director of the new Ray movie said? And you're like, that was, what? How long ago was that?
I just look. I mean, my feeling, because some of the stuff that I saw, like people complain, and look, I get. I guess on some level, I understand where that kind of stuff would upset you, and like I said, it was certainly pulled. A lot of it was pulled out of context.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I liken it to, look, we all love. We all still love, or I don't know if everybody does, but James Gunn. We all still love James Gunn. Everybody's a big fan of James Gunn. Look, James Gunn had the same problem. Somebody dredged up tweets that he made.
Yeah.
15 years before, it got him fired from Marvel, and then they brought him back, and we were all like, "Yay, James Gunn's back." That's what they did with this woman. They took these tweets when she had nothing to do with Star Wars, and she was talking about a completely different project.
Right.
Dredged them up and to make her look bad. And I'm just like, I mean, all right, whatever. It's the internet, it's social media. That's what goes on. I get that, but hey, wait until the movie comes out. Like, I don't understand these people that hate the movie. I mean, they haven't even started filming it yet. Can you at least like let's get some set photos?
You're right.
There's nothing to talk about yet. It's just I don't know how you can hate something that hasn't even been created yet. Like,
that's
I don't.
That's where I always think that they're the ones, the people that are spewing the hate, right?
Yeah.
It's like, by doing that, they're getting clicks and they're making money off of that. And so it's like, there's no incentive for them to be nice. There's no incentive for them to have a reasonable conversation. We're not making money off this podcast, by the way.
Right. Yeah. That's what, right. Because we try to have a reasonable conversation.
But I mean, like, right. We could be like, every podcast could be like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy, and you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and have the little, the red eyes, the logo,
Right. She's ruining Star Wars, and it would be me in the YouTube video, like,
yeah, right.
Right. Like, we really need. We should just start putting those pictures on our covers, just to get people. Yeah, see how many people join.
Our thing spikes. Wow.
Yeah.
We should do, but yeah. So right. I think it's just. I mean, we're like, right, with this, there's an agenda. With James Gunn, there was an agenda because he was getting pretty vocal, and then people went back and decided, oh, well, we're going to dredge up with this old stuff and make a big deal about it, and anyway,
yeah,
it gets crazy.
It is. So I that my only real reservation about the Rey movie is that what I said. But other than that, like, look, I'm gonna go see this,
right?
And I'm and it'll. I mean, unless I'm hearing horrible things about it when the movie's made and it comes out, that's a different story. But,
that's right.
Otherwise, I'm probably going to say
I'm all for it. Like I said, pay some sort of tribute to Luke and just do something, do something new. Like, it's like, I listen, I'm all down for nostalgia, and yes, please, fan service me to an extent, but it's time now. You got to do some new stuff. Give me some new ships. Give me some new aliens. Give me some, like, you know what I mean. Just let's. You're ready to go. If you're the future, let's if you're the future of Star Wars, let's go in a new direction.
Yeah. Well, I said to you before the podcast, I think we were talking, or maybe we were on the podcast. I don't know, but at any rate, I had mentioned to you that my son doesn't really like all the Star Wars stuff coming out. He's not interested in, for the most part. right? Like he really hasn't seen any. He didn't watch Ahsoka. He's not interested in Bad Batch. I don't think he saw Obi-Wan. He's not interested in any of that. And the
Yeah.
reality is, look, if you want this franchise to continue, it's not people like me that you got to
Right.
appeal to. It's people like him.
Right.
You know, you got to get them in the seats. You know,
You
like
gotta-
I'm
yeah.
in. Like you got me.
Yeah.
I've been a
Right.
fan since 1977. So
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
but
that's the
it's
real trick.
them.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I guess that, and I guess that is the real trick, though. It's like, it's probably it's very unusual at this point where it's like, as a company, you're trying to make content that appeals to everyone. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not just you're just not making it for 12-year-old boys anymore. Because that
yeah,
was like Lucas always said Star Wars is for 12-year-old boys, but it's like, it's like you're making it for like everybody now, and it's like it gets really hard, I would imagine, like just to it's like what's going to appeal to your son that we're also going to like or connect with,
right.
So I mean that's why they get paid the big bucks. They got to figure that
Right.
out.
Exactly. Anyway, so moving on from the Ray movie. The only
Yeah.
other thing, like there was an I think Adam Driver was on a podcast.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think it was on Smartless, right?
the Smartless podcast, and he was on the Rich Eisen show.
Oh,
And
that's
he,
right.
yeah, and he talked a little bit about Kylo Ren, and
That
I
was
mean,
it.
he has sort of said he's not coming back. Like,
Right.
so these ideas, which I think we all kind of knew because he died, so that it would be hard to, I mean,
Yeah.
nobody's really dead, right? But like they can resurrect anybody if they really want to. But it sounds like he has no interest in ever coming
Yeah.
back.
Again,
right?
if the money truck backs up, we're going to see the ghost of Ben
Uh,
Solo.
right.
But no, but he made it seem like he's like, yeah, they're doing new stuff, but it has nothing to do with me, basically, right?
Right. And what I thought was interesting about this interview is that they kind of talked about the progression of how Kylo Ren became, how his character developed, right? And what I thought was really interesting about and I did listen to the show, his piece of the show. It was on YouTube or something.
Okay.
And what I thought was interesting was he talks about how at the beginning, when the movies were pitched to him, and obviously they were going to be a trilogy, that was no secret to anyone. But like when the movies would pitch to him, the idea was that Kylo Ren would sort of be the opposite. That what they were trying to do with Kylo Ren was like the opposite of what they did with Darth Vader. Whereas Darth Vader starts out the most committed to the dark side of the Force, and then he, over the course of the three movies, sort of like loses that and comes back to the light side.
Right.
They were what they wanted to do with Kylo initially was that he was going to start questioning. He was going to start out questioning his commitment to the dark side, and then gradually get darker and darker, right? And there was no redemption for him at the end, and and likely because I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, there's no redemption for him at the end because they need him for the next series of movies,
Right.
Which would then they would go on. Like that was my thinking.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what they told him, but that's what I was thinking. And I just thought I just thought that was really interesting and worth discussing. Like what because clearly that didn't happen. And what he said is like it just over time it was like JJ had a vision and then Ryan had a vision and then JJ came back and had a work with what was left, because of what like the Last Jedi was sort of a diverged from what his initial plan was.
Right.
So the character really changed over time is what the point of it is. And I think it's worth I mean obviously like it's what I thought was interesting about the whole thing is that it's sort of like we talk a lot about, like we've talked a lot about how we feel like those movies were definitely disjointed, if nothing else.
Right.
And it just seems like the more that comes out, because we've heard a few things from a few different actors at this point. John Boyega, like I mentioned earlier, John Boyega was not happy, um, with how everything worked out. Mark Hamill was
Right. Yeah.
was not thrilled with how everything worked out. So it's not what I guess the point is. It's not just us that felt like it seems like the even the people that were involved felt that everything was a bit disjointed,
Right.
or
Yeah.
it didn't work out quite I mean, obviously there's going to be changes over time. Nothing's probably no movie starts out like from, okay, this is the idea, and then that's exactly how it translates as a film. I mean, there's always going to be some change, but it seems like these changes were kind of drastic, and like,
Right.
I mean, this whole character changed, from what they initially had envisioned, and I
Right.
just think it's interesting.
It is. Yeah, because it makes you wonder, like, why? I mean, we kind of were saying a little bit before, but like, like, I mean, at the end, at one thing at the end of the Last Jedi, like, Ray like said like join me, and he's like no, and he like doubles down that he's the bad guy. And I remember, and I don't remember if I read this somewhere, but like at the end of Last Jedi, Ray's in the Falcon, and the ramps like lowered, and then are they? I can't remember if they're talking to each other like through the Force
They're doing
connector.
one of those force
Right.
phone
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
things
Right. Right.
that they did. Yeah.
But then at some point, basically, she realizes he's too far gone, hits the thing, the ramp goes up, and the door slams. And I think it was an interview with Ryan Johnson where he said something like that's sort of like, yes, the door is now closed on Kylo Ren. He is now a bad guy. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's no. And so I remember, like, based on that being like, okay, and I read somewhere else that in the third act, he was supposed to be the bad guy, like no emperor, no
Yeah.
no, it was like he finally steps up and he is the bad guy. And but in every treatment between what we got with JJ and what we saw of um oh, what's the other guy that was supposed to Colin Trevorrow,
Trevorrow.
right?
Yeah.
I read his treatment, and even in there they had Kylo go and meet somebody that like was the apprentice or the
Oh, right, right, right.
it was like some other force. So even then they were still like hesitant to make him the bad guy, the
Yeah.
true bad guy. So you're just kind of like, well, what happened? And then we were saying, this is what we were saying beforehand, was like, was this all in response to the backlash of the Last Jedi? Because movie made a ton of money, but it was very, very divisive. And it's
Yeah.
like, were they, and then Solo failed, and like, they didn't say it, but it's like, it was the writing on the wall there where they're like, oh my God, we broke fandom.
Yeah. Right.
Like,
Right.
so maybe that's why they just, it felt like such a hard reverse type of thing. I don't, I would love to know more about it, why they made that choice. But it was very awkward. I remember like the whole like, like redemption, but then like they kiss, and you're just kind of like, well, that feels weird. Like it didn't,
Right.
it didn't feel earned. It just felt like, oh, I kind of we said before, I forgot all about the Raylos, the people that were shipping the two of them, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm just kind of like, oh, right, that was a whole thing. I forgot. So I don't know if they were going for that. I mean, I don't know what was
And
going on there.
and I just thought it was weird. Like, even then, I remember thinking, I don't know, that like it's kind of strange that, like, this guy kidnapped her at one point and then was torturing her, and then like a kiss at the end. Like, I remember
Yeah,
even then I was sort of like, that's a little, I don't know, just
yeah,
not. It's
a little creepy.
not keeping with it's a little creepy, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
I don't know, but like yeah, I just think it's interesting to see, like, it's almost like validation that, like, yeah, these movies were as disjointed as we felt they were.
right. Yeah,
Right? Because even the actors are sort of like, yeah, the character that I ended up playing is not the character they told me I'd be playing at the beginning of this whole thing.
right. Yeah. It is nice to hear that there was a plan at the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because like that's actually the most interesting thing I found is like I'm like, oh, there was a plan. Like
Yeah, they did have some kind
because
of
we always say like, oh, it wasn't planned out. Well, I think it was planned out to an extent, but it just drastically changed
yeah.
or wasn't able to follow through or whatever. Yeah, I would love to know more about that.
Yeah. And I like that, that comment by Ryan, like, well, he's clearly a bad guy now when the ramp goes up. Well, wasn't he a bad guy when he killed his father? Like,
Well,
like,
right.
isn't that kind of the moment that, like, when you kill Han Solo, doesn't that make you a bad guy?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Right, right, like pretty much you kill Han Solo. That was his commitment to the dark
Right, in
side.
cold blood. Like, it wasn't
Right.
like an accident or anything. Like, he totally impaled his father and then
That
threw him off the
was
bridge.
Yeah,
You know?
that was his right. That should have been his true turn to the dark side. And then
Right.
I guess the Last Jedi was very. They started having their little telephone calls and like yeah. Then
Force time. They call it force time. That's what I was trying to think of.
force time. That's funny.
Force time.
But they were doing the force time thing, and then it's like yeah. So that kind of muddied the waters there, where it's like yeah. I mean. Yeah, if it were me, I would have, like it's like, all right, he just got Han Solo. He's the bad guy. There's no, that would have been probably better. I mean, that would have been much better then. And then then when he killed Snoke, it wasn't doing it to protect Rey. He killed Snoke because he wanted the power. Like he was
right.
More. Man, see, we just made up a whole better movie.
Yeah. See that?
I know, right?
Anyway, I thought that was interesting. It's nice. It's like I said, it's just sort of like validation. Like, yeah, it seems like a lot of these guys were just as confused as all of us were. That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So well, I'm glad that they're not doing the trilogies anymore. So now it's like if Rey has a nice movie, maybe she'll get another one. If it doesn't, or it doesn't work out, okay, we'll come on and maybe that's when we dig up Finn and bring him in, and say, all right, all right, why don't you
get Finn to come back?
Yeah, you come back for a little while, So
I would love to see him come back. I just don't know. It's based on stuff he said. I just don't know if he has any interest.
When I was walking the one day, I was like, oh, if they do when they announced the Rey movie, I'm like, if they did a sequel movie, not as much the Rey movie, but if they did a sequel to the sequels, what would I want to see? And I just had this whole opening sequence that sort of parallels when we first are introduced to Darth Maul, when the doors open up and he's there with his double lightsaber. I have a whole idea in my head where it's like something very similar to that, but when the doors open up, it's Finn, and he's like got his good guy blue lightsaber. He's like,
okay.
And everyone's like,
be cool.
Where everyone's like, and then you realize like, oh my God, it's Finn and he's a Jedi. Like, yeah, I picture that being like a crowd pleasing, moment where you're like, hot, like, yes, great, and then let him go and, have a hallway fight like they do in the Marvel, or an elevator fight, have do some really cool stuff.
Yeah. It would be cool because I still say, the chemistry between John Boyega and Daisy Ridley was really good.
Oh yeah,
I mean they were very good on screen together.
Yeah.
They were a good duo, and then I don't know why they broke that up then.
I know.
But anyway.
Yeah. So well.
Anyway,
hopefully it ends up being good.
Yeah. So are we ready to? I think the next thing is Marvel, right?
Yeah. I'm going to keep this quick. So
okay.
Next is, let's see, Marvel, and so I'm caught up on the Marvel stuff. Mark has not caught up on the stuff yet. So I'm just going to briefly talk about. So over the week of Christmas, what if? Oh, hello, I have a visitor. What if came out? They released one a day over. I think it was like the week of like right around Christmas time, whatever.
Okay.
So. Overall, it was enjoyable. It was good. It wasn't it wasn't like season one where everything led up to a great big storyline at the end.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you that. Okay.
Yeah, some stuff did add up, but other stuff, a lot of it was just one-offs.
Okay.
So my overall takeaway is I really like the What If show, and I really like the animation, right? But I don't necessarily know if I need a What If show. So what I mean by that is like in the one episode, it took place in like I think it was in like the 90s. And in the premise here was Star-Lord came back Star-Lord was fully seduced by ego and came back to Earth that much earlier and was here to destroy the planet, basically.
Oh, wow.
And the Avengers of that time had to be pieced together. So it was like, I think it was like, they had Ant-Man, but it was Hank Pym, and they had Goliath was there, and
Okay.
they had Howard Stark there, they had Peggy Carter there, and you know, so it
Okay.
was like, anyway, and then the story is they get together and they beat him, and that's the story. But I'm just like, as I'm watching, I'm like, this is fun, but I'm like, well, with a few tweaks here, this could just be an MCU, like this could take place in the MCU proper. You know,
Yeah.
like, you know, and so I just found myself watching it thinking that I'm like, well, why does it have to be a multiverse, or why does it why does it have to be a what if, which is the whole premise of the show? But I'm like, you know, I think I might rather have some if, you know, like, you know, or
Right.
you know,
Like,
like
just have it. Right.
here's some untold stories. And because like I said, I really like the animation style. Another one was like Nebula is a in the Nova Corps, and she's
Okay.
doing her thing, and it was enjoyable. I liked it, but I'm just, part of me again was like, I'm like, well, why don't we just have a Nova story? You know, like you
Yeah.
just
Right.
animate
Right. Right.
Nova story. So it's like sort of that sort of thing where I'm like, you know, I can appreciate what they're doing, but I think I'd rather, you know, and I'd rather just have
Just get a story about like,
just give, yeah, give me an just give yeah,
yeah.
an MCU story. You know, I'd rather just
Right.
get that, and you know, yeah, okay, you might limit yourself, but you could also do you know, oh, here, you know, okay, here's a unknown Tony Stark story. You know,
Yeah.
he's dead, but we have a different voice actor, and we're gonna tell you a story about it, and you know, because he was in one of the episodes, and it was enjoyable. I liked it. I'm like, wow, I miss Iron Man, you know, like it was stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, and maybe they could do something like that, you know, maybe they could do another animated series that's more based on that, but whatever. So that was my point, is I enjoyed the show for what it is, but I would probably enjoy it more if it was more MCU based, I guess you could say.
Right. 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 Okay.
Especially with, I mean, they bring all the voice actors back from the shit from the movies and everything. So it's like, well, just give me some animated story, you know, some animated
Yeah.
stories for you guys, you know.
About that character. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hear you.
yeah. So,
Interesting.
yeah, but overall, it was good. There's some neat ideas. They did introduce a new character. She was happened to be Native American, and but again, it was a multiverse character. So like something happened with Asgard. Asgard got destroyed, and then her tribe got embedded with her power somehow. But they made a big deal because she was an original character for What If. And I liked it. I liked the story. It was all good and everything. But I'm like, well, she'd be cooler if she was part of the MCU proper than like an ancillary multiverse character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm harping on that too much, but I liked
Interesting.
it. Yeah, it's worth your time to watch it. It is
Yeah,
fun.
I do want to see it because I liked the first season. I just haven't gotten.
Yeah.
I actually totally forgot about it until you and I started talking about the show tonight.
Yeah. Well, it was, they did. I don't know why they chose to drop it over the holiday, one per day. It was kind of fun because I just at night I was like, oh, and I would watch one at nighttime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they were doing that to, again, were they doing that to like help decrease fatigue, where it's like, you know, oh, I have to watch something every week, whereas this way they
Yeah.
just, you know. And then that brings me over to Echo, whereas Echo, I think there's only 5 episodes of that. It's not very long. And
Okay.
they dropped those all at once too. So I feel like they were trying to, you know, maybe just
Let's
just get, yeah. On one hand, oh, for your convenience, here's everything. Watch it when you can. And the flip side with Echo, especially, we were kind of kidding around. We said it's like, here, we're just done with this. You know,
Yeah.
like,
That was kind of my impression was. Let's just get this. Oh, we know it's not going to be. We know nobody's going to like it. Let's just get it out there. You know,
I mean,
that was my impression.
it seems to be getting rave reviews online. A lot of people
Okay.
seem to be enjoying it. I don't know how much of that is marketing. I mean, it was okay. I didn't
Okay.
love it. I didn't hate it. I will say that there was 5 episodes total. The first episode was well done, but it was very much a gigantic recap. So I know they had this like branded as like a spotlight thing where you didn't need to see anything before this.
Yeah.
And you didn't, because the first episode filled a lot of that stuff in.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it was like
From Hawkeye, because that's where she's from.
yes, right, exactly. So like kind of filled that in. It got you all up to speed. You know, so it was, you know, for me, I'm like, okay, I know all this, but if you were just sat down to watch it, it would, oh, this is very interesting type of thing. So
Okay.
I appreciated them for including for doing it that way, and rather than just being like previously on whatever, they
Right,
actually
right, right.
incorporated the flashbacks into the episode and everything. So that was well done.
Okay.
The rest of the series was good. It was interesting. I mean, Kingpin by far is the standout. I just love Vincent.
He's very good in that role.
Yeah, whatever his name is, I love him. He's
Vince
great.
D'Onofrio.
That's it. Yes, he's awesome. I liked Echo. So she's Native American, and I think Hispanic. I think her dad is Mexican in the show, right? And then she's also deaf, and she has a prosthetic leg. So like there's
Okay.
a lot going on there for one character. Like you know what I mean? And I'm all for representation. I'm all for all that stuff. But it just felt like a lot of stuff kind of crammed into one character. And
Yeah.
then they really focused on her Native American. They really focused on her Native American heritage, which was interesting because she did go back home and she was interacting with some people in her community there and stuff. But like, and spoilers, I guess so. Like, but as part of the Native American thing, she had like some kind of magic powers now. Like her hands were glowing and like
Oh, really? Okay.
it took me from being like this is a street level character who has these disadvantages and can still kick butt. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, it took me from that being like, I liked that, but it took me from that to being like, well, she's magic now,
Yeah.
And it just kind of, it didn't jive. You know what I mean? It didn't, I'm like, nah, I don't think I like this. This is a little, it took it a little bit too far.
Okay.
And I almost want to say, like, I'm not Native American, so I can't be offended technically, I guess. But like, it almost felt like a little offensive where I'm like, just because someone's Native American, suddenly they're having like
Magic.
magic earth powers, and like, she was seeing visions of previous warriors, and it just felt very like, I'm like, but why can't she just be a Native American? Why can't she, her?
Right.
It just felt like that on odd. Now all that being said, at the end of the show, they did have a thing that said like, oh, we did this in conjunction with the Chiote tribe, or whatever they had.
Right.
So I guess it was all above board in terms of like, it wasn't offensive that way. But I just thought I felt it was like a little like contrived a little bit. Is that, if I'm using that right? Like, it's just like, oh, she's Native American, but oh, now she's got magic. I don't know. I would think I would have rather her just been like, yep, I'm Native American and I'm deaf and I got a prosthetic leg and now I'm going to kick your butt.
Right.
Yeah. So not a ringing endorsement. It wasn't bad, like horrible. It was just like, I'm just like, oh, this is just a little bit too much,
Okay.
So
yeah, I mean, I'll get around to watching it. I just, it all came at once, and but that was like my first impression when I found out it was dropping all at once. Was I was like, oh, they don't have a whole lot of confidence. They just want to get this out.
Yeah, but like I said, so I thought that.
But it seems like if you're saying it's getting good review, I mean, I haven't really paid attention to anything that's going on online with this thing, so I don't know. I mean, I saw her doing a lot of red carpet stuff, but I didn't see anything other than that.
Yeah, I kept seeing, reviews and like people talking about, but and this is my conspiracy theory, but I'm like, how much of that is real and how much of that is
right?
The marketing hype machine getting things going too,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's all I have for Marvel.
Okay.
I was just touch base on those. I have absolutely no idea what's coming up next for Marvel in terms of TV shows. I feel
or
like
movies or anything.
I feel like in 2024, other than Deadpool 3, I feel like nothing is coming out. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I'm in the dark as of right now.
I think that's the only movie. I think we're going to get something else. We're probably going to get some kind of TV show or something, but I think that's the only movie.
All right. Yeah, I'm blanking on that because I can't remember what I can't remember what else.
I don't even know what's going on anymore.
I know, right?
But the Marvels is coming out shortly on streaming. So
yes, if it's not already,
if it's not already,
I did see ads for that too. So,
yep. So okay,
all right.
Yeah, we gotta get caught up on Marvel stuff. What's going on with that? Because I'm lost.
Yeah. And then what else? And then we have Doctor Who.
Yeah. So this is I just wanted to, this was they had their 60th anniversary. We had 4 specials. This is now on Disney Plus. And I'm curious about what I was curious to talk to you about it.
Okay.
Because I want to know, like, I'm the bigger fan of the two of us for Doctor Who, I think.
Right.
And I'm just curious what your thinking was on it.
So I mean, just the three specials, I really liked the first one, which was the Star Beast. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I really liked that one a lot. That one was really good. I enjoyed the story. And it was I remember you saying that the Star Beast was from the comics. Or
Yes.
What was its name? The Meep, right?
The Beep the Meep.
Okay. So what's interesting, just as a little aside here, what's interesting is that Beep the
Meep.
All right. So the interesting thing about that is the writing credits. Apparently, you had said that's based on a comic book, or you said the Meep from a comic, but
yes,
the whole episode was adapted basically from that comic book and then made into the show. So like it wasn't verbatim, obviously, because there's different characters now. But the guys that wrote the comic have a writing credit in the beginning of the episode.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even notice that.
I noticed
that's
it because
interesting.
It's the guys. It doesn't mean anything, but unless you're a comic book guy, but his name is Dave Gibbons, and he's relatively famous in the comic book world.
Okay.
But I saw his name in the beginning. I'm like, oh, he's doing Doctor Who, writing for Doctor Who now. And then afterwards I saw like, no, he wrote the story back whenever it came out originally.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, that was just I thought it was neat, and I really liked that one. The next two were okay. The one on the spaceship was silly with like they found the doppelgangers of themselves or whatever, and then the Neil Patrick Harris one was the last one, right?
Yes.
And that was just weird. That one I just wasn't sure what to make of it. You know what I mean? Like he was hamming it up and he was having a good time being what's the guy, magician? What was his name?
He is the toy maker.
The toy maker. Okay.
The toy maker.
So I mean, all in all, it was fun and it was enjoyable. I mean, you know, maybe a little bit too silly for my taste, but I didn't dislike it, you know. And then I thought it was different and unique how they introduced the new Doctor. What they call that, the bi generation.
Bi generation,
right? I thought that was pretty funny. Like obviously, it like pops out of him. I'm like, what? I'm like, what is happening?
yeah. That was really different.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, overall, I liked it. Okay. I had a good time with it all. I mean, it wasn't, you know, it didn't. Do
you like the new episode, like the Chudigatwa standalone? Did you like?
Yes, he's going to take a little bit of getting used to.
Okay.
You know, I don't dislike him, but it's going to take a little getting used to him. I found the goblins and the bad guys a little silly. Like that.
Yeah, that was right. Agreed.
But I really liked, and I forget her name already, but I liked his partner, his companion. What's her name? The blonde girl. Is
it Rose? Is it also Rose?
No. Oh no, Ruby. What's the name of the episode?
Ruby. It's Ruby.
That's it. Ruby.
Yeah. That's it.
The church on Ruby Road. Right. Yeah. So anyway, but I liked her. I found her. She's cute, but I found her entertaining. So, yeah. So I mean, that's just my brief things. But as you know, the super fan, the bigger fan, what did you think of everything?
I really liked it. I thought all of them. I loved David Tennant back.
Yes. Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah. I'll say this. Like the way it played out was not how I expected it to play out.
Okay.
Like I really thought the 3 episodes with David Tennant were going to be him trying to keep trying to reverse what happened to Donna so that she lives, right? That's what I thought. I thought the whole 3 episodes were going to be that.
Right.
And nope. I mean, it was like right off the bat, like she was like, nope. She runs into the doctor in the first 10 minutes of the show.
Right.
And they sort of resolved that issue kind of pretty quickly.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I was kind of surprised by that. But I like the beep because I remember I was watching it, and man, it's been years. I could even tell you which comic it was, right? Like it's been
That's so
years since I
funny.
saw that comic.
Right.
But like as it was playing out, I was like, well, the Meep's the bad guy. Like
Yeah, right.
you know. So so I could like I wasn't surprised by that because I remember the comic. It was actually so I had the series of Marvel comics,
Right.
right? And then I had one special that was actually from uh it was a UK. I
Yes.
bought it at Comics and More over in King of Prussia.
Okay, right, yeah.
I remember this specifically.
That's
And
funny.
and it was like a special, it was like from the UK. It was like
Yes.
it was a special like edition of their comic.
Yes,
And
because
that's what it was in.
okay. Yeah, because back then, um, the UK would publish their own comics
Yes.
for a lot of things. And then especially for Doctor Who, what we would get over here would be a collected version. Like the
Yes.
comic, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like the comic, the
Yes.
Marvel comic you were reading had probably already been published over there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But then I did the opposite with Transformers. I used to buy the Marvel comics here, but they came out monthly, but every week in the UK they came out, and then you
Yeah.
discovered that, and you're like, "What do you mean? There's all these other stories?" And I remember they were like,
Yeah.
and they were larger, like magazine size. It was a
Right,
whole-
exactly. Yeah, it was a magazine. I think they had like Doctor Who Monthly over there,
Okay,
and it
right.
was like the comic was like it wasn't a standalone comic book. It was published in Doctor Who Monthly or something like that, which also
Okay.
had articles and other things, you know.
Oh, I see. Okay, that
But
that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
that aside, going off on a
I know.
tangent there for a second. But yeah, I really liked the episodes. I loved David Tennant back. I really enjoyed all three episodes. I liked the one on the ship, like even though it was, I mean, there were, it was very Doctor Who, right? Like there was
Yeah, right.
the silly elements to it. But I thought it was like a little like it was creepy, and it was cool that it was
right.
just the two of them, and I liked them trying to figure out like what was going on with that robot that they met like right off the bat. Like I mean, I just thought all that was really good.
Yeah,
Like very sort of, because Doctor Who always goes from these like what's really cool, I think, about Doctor Who is it has like your science fiction stuff, and then it has like your horror stuff, and then and they mesh it all together, and there's different,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So I always kind of like that. And that one was more horror-y, I thought, and I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, but I and then the final episodes with so the episode with Neil Patrick Harris, the toy maker is from a William Hartnell episode,
Okay.
and they've talked about bringing the toy maker back for years, and then for one reason or another they never did.
Okay.
But there's some issues with the toy maker. Like first of all, it's one of those series where there's only one episode that still exists.
Oh.
Right? Like it's a 4-episode series, but
Okay.
it's one of those ones where they only have one episode. I think it's the final episode.
Oh.
That still exists. The rest of it is, they know what happened because they might have recordings, or they have they have voice recordings, or they'll have the scripts and stuff like that, but they don't have the actual episodes.
Okay.
So, and there's been some, like, I guess there's some stuff that goes on and again, I've never seen it because most of it doesn't exist. There's some stuff that goes on in the episode, like I think there's the racial stuff that goes on that that makes it like a little uncomfortable and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but they've talked about bringing the toy maker back for a number of years, and there's a number of Big Finish audio stories that feature the toy maker. So it was kind of cool that Neil Patrick Harris comes back and he's the toy maker. I thought he did a really good job. I really liked that episode. The bi-generation thing was certainly unexpected. That's not how I thought this was going to end. I mean, it's not how it ever has ended before, but I don't hate it. I don't hate
Yeah.
that that David Tennant doctor is still out there. Like I love, and he's like hanging out with Donna, so we could conceivably get like kind of maybe like a mini series with just the
Yeah.
two. Maybe we get this again. Maybe we get like an episode or two of just those two, or like I like that idea. And Tennant's great at that. I mean, he really did sort of like become the doctor again, like his
Yes.
doctor.
Yeah.
I thought he did a really nice job. So
Yeah. One of the things I thought with the bi generation was like is because most of the former doctors were all, I mean, everybody's barring one or two, everybody seems to be fully involved with the show, even after they're no longer the doctor.
yeah,
Right. So I wonder if this was like a way for them to like going forward at the very least, keep everybody around. You know what I mean?
it may be right.
Yeah. So I kind of thought that I'm like, oh, instead of like, like forcing cameos or, other, like, what I mean? Now they're like, oh, yep. When it's time for the to regenerate, he just splits off or something like that,
Yeah. It was, I think it's interesting because in our last show, I tried to explain not very well these Tales from the TARDIS thing that we're going on that is available in England but not here, right?
Okay.
Right. And I think that this bioregeneration thing plays into that because it's sort of like it's the old actors who have previously been doctors or companions who get pulled back together by the TARDIS.
Okay.
And then they reminisce about some of the adventures they had. And what they'll do is they show so they'll have like a little vignette where they talk at the beginning and then they show the old episode and then there's a little vignette at the end. Right.
Okay.
And they clean it up a little bit. They shorten the episode so it's not, the old episode. So it's a little tighter story. And I thought like that kind of leans into this bioregeneration thing that these doctors are still out there.
Right.
So I think that's interesting. And it does open the door for like some of these older actors like Colin Baker and Peter Davison to come back and like still do some Doctor Who stuff, which I think is nice. I mean,
right.
Like I was thinking about this like when this was all going on. I really like where I'm at with my Doctor Who fandom. I wish I could be like this with all of my fandoms. Like, I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I was like, look, I'm just here to be entertained.
Right.
Tell me a good story. Right. Like, I don't get, like, just tell me a good story. I'm in. Right. Like, I'm not like, because I know that there were fans out there who were really angry about the bioregeneration and, other stuff that went on. And I'm like, I don't care. I really don't. Like, just tell me a good story. If it's with David, tell me a good story with David Tennant. Tell me a good story with Ncuti Gatwa. Like, I'm all in. And the other thing is that I really like about my Doctor Who fandom is I'm not totally in on everything that's going on.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so I like a lot of what I saw in these series were surprised to me. I didn't know anything about what was going to happen, right? So, but apparently, like people were spoiled on the regeneration thing. Like that had gotten out. A lot of people didn't believe that's what was going to happen because they've never done that before.
Right.
But that apparently was out. Like that was out there in the ether. But I never saw it. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so like all of this stuff was surprising to me, and I kind of liked it. So I'm all in.
That's good. Yeah, there is something to be said for that about like, you're like, you know what? Like you're right. It's not that you don't care, but you don't care. You know what I mean? It's just there's that
I don't care that much.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like I just want to be entertained.
Like I like Doctor Who. It's a fun concept. I enjoy it, and then that's the fandom there, versus like, there's that like Star Wars, we just get so caught up in it sometimes. And I don't know why, but we do.
Right.
Like you were saying about the whole thing with Luke before. You're like, I know it shouldn't matter, but it matters. That bothers me.
Right. Like I don't care about that. Like there's and what's nice about Doctor Who is like there's really no canon because it's
I
all
know,
like
right?
screwed up, right? Like, and like they meet each other and like there's no canon. It
Right.
changes all the time. So you don't have to worry about any of that in my view. Like I'm
No,
whatever,
right. I do
you
remember
know.
that at one point. I forget it was something with the Daleks and like the Time War. I forget what it was, but I remember being like, when did I remember like trying to figure out like when did this happen or how does it what's the timeline here? And then very quickly I realized it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Yeah, it just
Right.
doesn't
You're
matter.
like, just enjoy the story. Yeah, just have fun. You're like, oh, okay, I got it now.
Yeah. So I really liked. I think it wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I really liked what they did. I really liked the Chudy Gatwa episode that with the standalone, like just his
Yeah.
episode, The House on Ruby Road. I thought it was great. I
Okay,
mean, I
right.
really liked that episode. Now, that said, I will say this. All right. I am no longer on board. Like, I don't know what's going on with the musical stuff. It just needs to stop. Right. The musical numbers in the middle of science fiction superhero episodes.
I maybe I black it. What
The
happened?
so he did they did they go up to the troll ship, and I agree the trolls were a little like silly, but they go up to the troll ship and then they have that like
Oh, right.
ants singing number.
Right. I
Okay, so
forgot.
now we've seen this now in the Marvels, we've seen it
I
in Star Trek, we've
yeah.
seen it in Doctor Who. Like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm done now.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
right, like that just needs to stop.
Right. You're like, I do not need any more musical
I
elements in my science
Yeah,
fiction.
like it was like I don't know why that's a thing all of a sudden.
I
Like
don't
it
either.
was kind of funny like in the Star Trek one. I was sort of like, well, okay, I get it. These are all theater people. They wanted to do this. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
It's a like I enjoyed it for what it was. I did not hate it, but I enjoyed it for what it was. But I'm like, okay, that's over there, and then there's the rest of the story here, right?
Right. Yeah.
And and the Marvels, they sort of integrated it and made it kind of make sense. So it was like, okay.
Right.
But this is like, all right, I don't know what's happening here or
Right.
why this is a thing now.
When did this become a thing? Right.
But just stop it. Just stop the musical numbers in the middle of a science fiction episode.
I feel like there was a whole episode of The Flash or Supergirl. I feel like they did one too. Like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And whereas, you're just like, huh? Like, right.
Yeah, just
Okay,
please.
right. I know. It's
Like
funny.
that.
I think that part I must have just like blacked out or skipped, like mentally skipped because I've forgotten about that. But I do remember I suffered through the Star Trek episode that they all sang through, and I just remember being like, "This is not for me." I did not
Yeah.
enjoy that at
Yeah.
all.
Just please. That's
Right.
okay. We're done with it. That was a 2023 thing. Like,
Yeah,
let's
just
not do that anymore.
make that stop, please. Right? That's funny.
But yeah, but otherwise, I thought it was really good. I think I'm gonna like him as the Doctor. I think I really liked, particularly later in the House on Ruby Road. I thought he was very good.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like
so
just like right, it's going to take a little while to get used to him, just in terms of him being a new doctor. But yes, I did like what I saw. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. And he seems very like the doctor. He's very positive. He's very like, that way. Like, well, sometimes the doctor, like it used to be the doctor was like kind of a grumpy old man,
Yeah.
and but now he's like with the younger angle on it. It's more David Tennant, more Matt Smith, more that way, like where it's more positive. And so I like that, I like them.
Yeah, it's more fun. Like it's
Yeah.
I like it looks like he's going to be fun.
Yes.
So I'm on board. Admit his leather coat that he was wearing in that episode was fantastic. I love that coat. The Doctor always has good coats.
He's got a good coat, right? But now
He always has a good coat.
am I wrong in that his costume changed a lot throughout the episode, or did he?
Yes, it did. He did not have the same Like that's like a sort of a that's sort of a doctor trait. Like he sort of wears the same thing, with some variations, but he basically wears the same thing.
Yeah, because I remember thinking that during the episode. I'm like, oh, he keeps changing his outfit. Because I was waiting for it to be like the reveal of like, this is my outfit now,
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I remember too is so when he did the bi-generation thing, right? And he comes out, why didn't he have any pants on?
Because they split the clothes. So David Tennant had the pants on,
Okay.
but he because the one outfit got split between the two of them.
Oh, and then he had on a shirt, and I guess David Tennant had a jacket. Okay, I missed that part of it. I just remember being very confused about it. I'm like, why am I seeing the doctor in his underwear?
Yeah, that was a little disconcerting. I agree. It was just something I didn't need to say. But
you're like, there's Time Lord underwear. Okay, now we.
Yeah, but it was I like I know a lot of people were like online. They were furious about the bi-generation thing, but I thought, hey, I'm fine, whatever. And I think like it actually somebody I saw just recently somebody was saying so the last season of Colin Baker's run as the Doctor is the trial of the Time Lord. Like the whole season he's on trial.
I remember that. Yep.
And in the end, like spoiler alert for the show that's ages old. The Valyard, the guy who's putting him on trial, turns out to be the Doctor, right? Like a version of the Doctor, right? Like that's the whole thing, and and for years people have been like, well, how can that possibly be the Doctor, and how does that work? And then when they did the timeless child thing, they were like, okay, well now you can sort of explain why the Valyard was the Doctor, but the bi-regeneration, they were like, well, that's also a way that the Doctor could be the Valyard at some, because he's like an evil version of the Doctor.
Oh, I see what you're saying, right?
And, and so that's So I was like, oh, okay, well that sort of makes it. But again, like I said, canon. I don't care if it can.
Right. Yeah. Right. It does. Yeah.
So, but I really liked it. So I'm looking forward to the next to a season, which I don't know when it's. I don't know if we're getting it at the end of the year.
I thought, and I could be wrong. I swear I just saw something that said April or May of this year. I could be wrong though. But that's.
Yeah, and then I just this week I saw that apparently Ruby is only sticking around for one season. Apparently, I just saw that this week.
And the I don't remember anybody's name, but the girl that was in Andor that had the dark hair that was in a relationship with the blonde-haired girl.
Oh yeah,
that actress. She'll be the new companion. I read.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah. Because I remember I was one of these. I'm like, wait, you're like, I'm like, wait, what? Andor? I'm like, oh, okay. So, I don't know what everyone's. I know there was a little bit of an uproar. Everyone's like, why is she leaving so soon? But who knows? They
don't always stick. It's funny, and I'll dovetail into my next little thing that I'm gonna bring, because this is the other thing I was up to Christmas. So I just anybody who's listened to the show for there we go. Anybody that's listened to this show for a while knows that I've complained incessantly about how difficult it is to watch old Doctor Who because old Doctor Who is never on the same streaming service as new Doctor Who, so you need to get like a couple of different streaming services to be able to watch the whole thing. But over the holidays, or over our little break, I discovered that they have been putting out Blu-ray collections of the old series for a couple of years now, and so each like they come in a box set, and it's like each season is like complete in the box set. So I've been like buying all these up whenever I can. They release like one or two a year, and I've been trying to buy all these up so that I have them, and might with the intent of being able to rip them at some point and put them on Plex or something so I can stream them whenever I want. But these are they're really nice, and if you're a Doctor Who fan, they're great. They're not super expensive, and I even got a few of them went on sale shortly after Christmas, and I picked like 3 of them up for I think under $60. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so they're really reasonable, and the copies are really good, and so if you're a Doctor Who fan, this is definitely the way to go. So they announced 2. So this list doesn't have it. These are all the ones that have come out so far. The blanks are obviously now the older ones, the William Hartnell and the Patrick Troughton ones. Those are the ones that have the most number of episodes that are missing.
Oh,
So
I
that's
see.
probably why they're waiting. Now they've been doing animated versions of a lot of them.
Yeah,
So
I've seen
I don't know if that's what's going to end up on the DVD or
because you said they have the audio but not the
yeah,
video part. So they'll animate the missing stuff or whatever, right?
right. And and some of them they have like if they have like that Celestial Toy Maker episode, they have the original episode.
Okay.
So that's what they'll put. That's probably what they'll put on the disc, and then they'll animate the 3 they don't have.
Oh, I see. That's cool though. Hey, right?
Yeah. Hey, I just want to see them, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
I don't get, I mean, if that's the only way I can see them, and I'm fine with the animation's not great, but it's fine.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, it's getting better. I'll say that. Like
Okay.
the first ones they did were very like, yeah, it's basically like stick people, but
Yeah,
like
right.
they're getting better as they go.
Okay. All right.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so I really like them.
that's cool.
Yeah. So
I didn't
I've been
I didn't realize Sylvester McCoy was the Doctor for 3 seasons.
yes.
I don't think I've seen any of his episodes.
Yeah, that's when it really um that was late 80s, early 90s.
So that would make
And
sense also.
that's really when it started to fall off. And like I think for us what happened is like I always watched it on Channel 12, which is
yeah,
the
yeah.
PBS station in the Philadelphia area. And I think what happened, like that's how I always watched Doctor Who. But then I think PBS eventually just stopped showing it because it wasn't getting it wasn't getting the views that it used to
Right,
get,
yeah.
and they just stopped showing it. So
That
a lot
would
of
make
that
sense.
Yeah, a lot of this Sylvester McCoy ones I've not seen either.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember watching all the Colin Baker ones. I remember trying to watch Trial of the Time Lord, and like, yeah, if it wasn't on PBS, it was on. I have a vivid memory of trying to like one of the UHF stations on my TV. I had in my room, like trying to tune that in and just being like,
Yes.
yeah.
I think it was a PBS station too, but it was like a PBS station in Jersey.
Yeah, yeah.
That you could only get like when the weather was just right.
It was like all half-assed, and I'm just like,
right.
what's
right.
happening? What do you Yeah.
Things our children will never have to do.
I was just saying to my daughter about my one daughter's gotten into watching Survivor, the TV show, the game show. And I said, she's watching the old ones. And I'm like, oh, your mom and I used to watch these. And I said something. I'm like, yeah, I said, I remember when this happened, but we missed the next episode. And back then that was it. You didn't see, like if you didn't record it,
you're out of luck.
Poof, it was gone forever. And she's just kind of like, as she's like binge watching all 48 seasons of it. I'm just like, yeah, it used to be, that's how it was.
Well, that's it. I was thinking about, like, I wonder, I became a fan of Doctor Who in the 1980s, but it was sort of like there was nothing else on. Like, I wonder, you know what I'm saying? Like what, Star Wars was over. Next Generation didn't come around until 89, right?
Yep, right. Yeah.
So it was like there wasn't a lot out there.
You're switching 3 or 4 channels. You're like, click, click, click. Oh, this is, Doctor Who. Oh, well, this is, I guess this is science fiction. Like, what I mean? You're like, well, it's something to watch. Something to put on.
Yeah, and I grew to love it, and I still enjoy. Like I've been buying these DVDs and I stick them in, and I've been watching them a little bit every night, and I still enjoy the show. But it's like I wonder if I would have been a fan if I hadn't become a fan when I did.
Right, probably not. Because. Well, I don't. Yeah, like yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, but
like I would probably like the new stuff, but I don't know.
Yes.
Like somebody on Facebook that I know from college recently was like, "Oh, I'm just discovering Doctor Who. Like, how far back do I need to go?" And I was just like, just watch the new stuff. Like
Right,
if
just-
you watch the new stuff, see if you like it. If you like it that much, maybe dab your toe into the
right.
real old stuff. But
But just realize, right? It's
it's an acquired taste.
I think what I remember watching more so is like I remember like the old ones, the black and white ones.
Yeah.
I remember liking them like because they were in black and white and the quality wasn't great in across the board. Like those seemed more acceptable to me than like once you get more at the time 70s and 80s. I remember them being like, yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
about this, because that to me that's what it felt compared to especially like Star Wars. It felt cheap, like
Yeah.
but yeah,
I agree. Like I really like the older stuff. That
yeah,
like the for me the hardest era to watch is the John Pertwee ones.
that's
And
fun.
I've gotten I've been because there's a lot of those I haven't seen.
Okay.
Just because he was never my favorite, but like those are hard to watch. Like I'm watching one right now, and I was watching it last night, and I was like, yeah, this is tough, man. This is not great. But
That's funny.
but I'm getting through it. I'm gonna watch them all.
Right. Hey, you might as well if you like. What I mean, it's fun to be able to say you did it.
Yeah, like the music's bad. Like it's just it's hard to watch.
It's funny seeing everything on the screen like this because I'm just like you forget how how long Tom Baker was the Doctor for, looking at all the different seasons and stuff, and then I guess
8 seasons.
Yeah, and then I guess Colin Baker was only for 2 seasons.
Yeah, because that's when there was this the BBC like it had become not as popular as it had been. And I think the BBC felt like they were spending too much money on it, and so they kept pulling money, and you could definitely see the quality going down, right? Like you can see it gets cheesier and cheesier, and so they started pulling money, and then there was some controversy between Colin Baker and the guy who was running the show and the BBC like head honcho. And they fired him basically.
Okay.
So he's the one Doctor he never got. You don't see him regenerate. I mean, what ends up happening is he regenerates in the first season of the first Sylvester McCoy era.
Oh,
But Colin Baker had left. He got because he got fired and he left. And they tried to get him to come back, and he was like, "Why would I come back?" And so what they did for his regeneration episode is the first episode of Sylvester McCoy's season. You see them the TARDIS hurtling through space. Something happened to it, and they flash to the interior of the console room, and the Doctor's in Cullen Baker's outfit is lying on his side on the control room, and the companion rolls him over, and he's already regenerating. But it's actually it's Sylvester McCoy in his outfit.
Yeah, right.
But the face is all like blurred out, so you can't see who it is.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway,
that's
stuff.
cool. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So but I'm excited about these. Like I because I've been complaining about this forever that I'm tired of paying monthly to watch Doctor Who.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So.
I'm really surprised that like as part of the overall deal with whoever the streamer now it's Disney, but like why wouldn't you just bring everything over? Like I
don't know.
I don't know either. And I mean,
it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be all one bundle, but obviously it's not. So
yeah, it's very strange. So
oh well.
Anyway,
that's good. Well, that's good that you can get them now. Like you said, get them before it becomes too much of a pain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
all right. I think that wraps us up, right?
Okay.
I think that's all we have tonight.
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right.
Well, very good.
We thanks for joining. Welcome to 2024.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Instagram, on X. We still have an account there, but I haven't been doing much with it. And like X, it's kind of terrible now.
I tried a little bit. Yeah, I tried a little bit on Threads, but I didn't seem to get any traction, so I gave that up too.
Yeah, Threads. They really need to fix Threads because I would totally use Threads. They need to fix the feed. The feed's not great on Threads.
Okay.
But yeah, but we're on Threads. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook, of course. So you can follow us in all those places, and of course, we'll be on YouTube. So you can check us out there.
Yep.
So with that, we will wrap up the show. Thanks for joining, and we will talk to you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for listening and watching.